So I want to start out by asking if you are a Spartan or if you are a Persian. A lot of you know in history, obviously, this is Sparta. They fell. But let me tell you the story about the 300 because they were amazing warriors. The Greeks were not perfect. The Spartans, least of all. They weren't bootlickers or anything, but they, um, the Greeks had offended the Persians, which led to Xerxes popularizing the uh western worlds of Greece. So the way he was going to start that is by conquering Thermopylae, which was like this. If you imagine a bottleneck area, they called it the hot gates. And that, if they could hold the Persians back, it would enable Greece to be inspired to fight on one and give them time to prepare to fight on. And Leonidas led this army of 300 soldiers to Thermopylae to fight the Persians. They say that the barbarian has come near and is coming on us while we are wasting time, Leonidas told his soldiers. And the truth is, soon we'll either kill the Persians or be killed by the Persians. It's one or the other. You have a 50-50 chance of survival. Your survival rates aren't great. There was like a lot of Persian soldiers. Some people say that there was as many as 1 million men. I don't know because I personally wasn't there, and there has been a lot of like different numbers thrown out there, but it's somewhere between 5,000 and a million. Either way you cut it, that's a whole lot more than 300. All right. So it's either 300 versus 5,000 or 300 versus a million. And honestly, in my opinion, it's the same difference. Their only advantage geographically was Thermopylae was like a bottleneck near the Aegean Sea, so it would neutralize Xerxes' overwhelming strength by making them like go into this bottleneck to get to Leonidas and the Spartans. But spiritually, the Spartans also had an advantage. They were fighting for something. They were prepared to fight and die so that others might stay free. And if you had any knowledge of the noble things of life, Leonidas told Xerxes, you would refrain from coveting others' possessions. But for me to die for Greece is better than to be the sole ruler over the people of my race. So basically, he was saying to Xerxes, he'd rather die for Greece to be free than be like uh a ruler, a tyrant, a king, so to speak. But Leonidas, he didn't take the easy choice. He learned to gain lands not by cowardice but by valor. So he would rather die on his feet fighting than live on his knees begging. And it was near the end of the first day. Xerxes ordered his most fearsome soldiers, they called them the immortals, right? And one of Leonidas's men came up to him and said, "Oh my gosh, they're close, they're near." And he said, Leonidas said, "Yeah, but we're also near to them." And to Xerxes' horror, even those troops were hurled back at a great loss. So the Spartans managed to fight a huge amount of the immortals and just so they fought them back. On the third day, it was clear that the Persians had found a way to attack from the rear. A warning came about from the enemy's strength. Xerxes' archers would fire enough arrows to block out the sun. "Then we shall fight in the shade," Leonidas said. Then he ordered his men to dine well, because they were most likely going to dine next in the afterworld. He tried to get some injured men to return to Sparta with news, but they rejected his ticket and said, "I came with the army not to carry messages, but to fight. And I should be a better man if I stayed here, or I will not be behind these, but first in the fight." So the men he tried to send home that were injured, they were like, no, dude, we're staying. So with nothing left to say, the Spartans stood in silence. And Leonidas, the next day, the sun was up. They would never see Sparta or their families again. He gave the order to march forward, and they stepped outside of the protection of the rocky gates to meet the enemy in the open. They took their final stand. The Persians hit them with a fury, whipped from behind by their slave drivers, backed by so many soldiers that they could afford to trample wounded or fallen comrades as the endless waves of men followed one after another. The Spartans methodically dispatched them as fiercely as before. Leonidas was killed in the middle of the final day, fulfilling a prophecy that he had long believed, that a Spartan king would have to die lest Greece be destroyed by an invader. So, in order for Greece to not be destroyed by the invader, a king had to die, and Leonidas took that upon himself as his own prophecy. Um, but before he died, one of the things he said to Xerxes was, Xerxes had said, "How many more Spartans are there in Greece?" And he said, "There are thousands more. None are equal to these fallen men, but they are all just as good at fighting." Greece understood what was at stake. I want to ask you this question again. Are you a Spartan or are you a Persian? Because a lot of us are doing the same things, we represent the same companies. There are a whole lot of Persians out there. I challenge y'all to become Spartans. Train your brains to think differently. I love y'all so stinking much. I hope you have a great night.